mula sa kalamidad na ito, mga detalye po ng mga balitang yan, ating aalamin maya-maya. Magandang gabi, ako po si Ricky Mathay.
Ako si Nina Richie Alago Flores. Ito ang mata ng Agila International. Para naman sa mga headlines ngayong araw ng Miyerkules.
Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos Jr. satisfied sa naging resulta ng isinagawang eleksyon.
Pilipinas at Japan nag-usap para palakasin ang kanilang Information and Communications Technology Cooperation.
Chinese President Xi Jinping nakipagkita kay Chilean President Gabriel Boric.
US President Donald Trump ipinagmalaki ang halos $1 trillion investment ng Saudi Arabia.
At Huawei ay ipagtatapat na sa mga karibal nito sa computer market. Satisfied si Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos Jr. sa naging resulta ng May 12 senatorial election.
Sinabi ni Palace Press Officer Attorney Claire Castro na kumpiyansa ang Pangulo sa suporta ng publiko sa kinalabasan ng natapos na halalan.
Satisfied po ang Pangulo dahil nalaman po natin na ang iba pang mga naboto ay mayroon sariling dignidad, may sariling paniniwala at ang karamihan po doon ay para sa bayan at hindi para sa ibang bansa. Naniniwala pa rin po ang Pangulo na malaki pa rin po ang suporta ng taong bayan sa administrasyon sa ngayon. Tandaan po natin ang kahuli-hulihan pong survey ay nagpapakita po na mataas na trust rating po ng Pangulo.
Pinabulaan na naman ni Castro ang mga pahayag na ang resulta sa senatorial polls ay di umano isang repudiation ng Marcos administration at isang kampanyang para usigin ang pamilya Duterte. Iginit din ni Castro na ang mga Pilipino ang siyang humusga at bumoto ngayong eleksyon at hindi ito refleksyon ng kung anuman ang sinasabi patungkol sa mga Duterte, kaya anya dapat ay galangin ito.
Laking tuwa at kumpiyansa naman ang ibinigay ni National Board of Canvassers Acting Chairperson George Garcia dahil sa maayos at tuloy-tuloy na pagproseso ng Certificates of Canvass ngayong araw. Posibleng bago matapos ang linggong ito ay makakapagproklama na ang Commission on Elections ng mga nanalong kandidato sa nagmipas na midterm election. Madeline Villar Moratillo para sa detalye.
Napuno ng palakpakan ang the 10th city kung saan ginagawa ang canvassing sa katatapos na national elections. Ito'y matapos i-anunsyo ni COMELEC Chairman George Garcia na tumatay yung chairperson ng National Board of Canvassers na umabot sa 101 Certificate of Canvass ang kanilang nabilang ngayong araw.
We would like to thank you all because we were able to, for the first time in the history of our country, this is the first time that the National Board of Canvass is able to canvass more than 100 COC on a single day. Actually, yesterday was already historic. So you have to remember this day because yesterday we were able to canvass 58 COCs, but we were able to surpass that.
Pasado alas 6 ng gabi nag-adjourn ang NBOC at itutuloy na lang ulit bukas ang canvassing. Sa kabuuan, 159 na COC ang kanilang nag-canvass. 16 na lang ang kulang para makumpleto ang canvassing. Dahil rito, mas kumpiyansa ang COMELEC na kakayanin nilang makapagproklama ng mga nanalo sa pagkasenador.
The earliest is Saturday, the latest is Sunday, ng lahat ng mga kandidato for senators para hindi na po yung partial proclamation. Hopefully makapag-proclaim na tayo ng buo na.
Pagkatapos magproklama ng mga senador, target nilang maisunod agad ang sa mga nanalong party list. Bukas, inaasahang mailalabas na rin ng COMELEC ang partial official count sa katatapos na senatorial at party list elections. Madeline Villar Moratillo para sa mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Nag-usap ang Pilipinas at Japan para palakasin ang kooperasyon ng dalawang bansa sa field ng Information and Communications Technology o ICT. Bumisita si Japanese Ambassador Endo Kazuya sa Department of Information and Communications Technology o DICT para makipagkita kay Secretary Henry Roguel Aguda. Dito, binigyan din ng Japanese envoy ang ongoing public and private sector initiatives sa ICT ng Tokyo katulad ng Open Radio Access Network, undersea cable infrastructures at iba pa. Kanya ring pinagtibay ang commitment ng Japan na suportahan ng Pilipinas sa digital transformations efforts nito. Samantalay, pinahayag naman ni Aguda ang kahalagahan ng naging kontribusyon ng Japan sa ICT ng Pilipinas. Kapwa naman nakapagkasunduan ng dalawang opisyal na palawigin pa ang economic relation ng Manila at Tokyo sa pamamagitan ng pagpapalawak pa ng ICT cooperation ng dalawang estado.
Sinabi ng Metropolitan Manila Development Authority o MMDA na nakapagkolekta na sila ng 6.10 tons ng basura sa NCR noong araw ng eleksyon. Ang datos ay base sa ulat ng Metro Parkway Clearing Group ng ahensya. Anila nasa 288 pieces ng garbage bags ang kanilang nakolekta sa buong Metro Manila, kung saan sa Malabon ang may maraming garbage bags na nakolekta na aabot po sa timbang na 1.48 tons. Samantala, iniulat naman nila na wala silang nakolekta mga basura sa Las Piñas, Makati at Marikina.
Sisimulan bukas sa 15 ng Mayo ang pagbebenta ng 20 pesos kada kilo ng bigas sa halos 33 kadiwa stores at mga palengke sa loob ng National Capital Region o NCR. Ayon sa Department of Agriculture, kadalasang nagbubukas ng araw ng Huwebes ang mga tindahan sa NCR kung kaya't bukas ay mag-uumpisa ang bentahan ng 20 pesos kada kilo na bigas sa NCR. Inaasahan din ng Agriculture Department na madaragdagan pa ang mga kadiwa sites at palengke na magbebenta ng naturang bigas sa Metro Manila. Target ng ahensya na gawing available sa publiko ang programa sa loob ng 42 lokasyon.
Inaasahan pong mananatili ang Pilipinas bilang pangunahing importer ng bigas sa buong mundo sa ika-4 na sunod na taon sa 2026. Ayon sa U.S. Department of Agriculture, tataas ng 100,000 metric tons ang rice imports ng Pilipinas mula sa estimate volume na 5.4 million metric tons ngayong taon sa likod na mas mataas na demand para sa bigas. Mula po kasi noong 2023, ang Pilipinas na ang naging pinakamalaking importer ng bigas sa buong mundo. Iniuugnay ito ng U.S. Agriculture Department sa mas mataas na pag-aangkat ng bigas ng Pilipinas dahil sa paglago ng populasyon, pagtaas ng turismo at patuloy na kahalagahan ng palay bilang pangunahing pagkain sa bansa.
Walang naging pahayag ang Malacanang na kumpiyansa ito na matatanggal sa pwesto si Vice President Sara Duterte. Ito ang nilinaw ni Palace Press Officer Undersecretary Attorney Claire Castro nang tanungin siya kung kumpiyansa ang Administrasyong Marcos na isulong ang impeachment laban kay VP Sara ngayong bago na ang komposisyon ng Senado dahil sa midterm elections. Ipinaliwanag ni Yusek Castro na hindi isinusulong ng Pangulo ang impeachment trial at tinututulan at pinasisinungalingan nila ang anumang balita tungkol sa pag-pursue sa nasabing pagdinig.
Wala pong anumang balita patungkol sa pagpursu ng Pangulo sa impeachment or sa impeachment trial ni VP Sara. So yan po ay ating tinututulan at pinasisinungalingan.
Sinabi rin ni Yusek Castro na welcome kay Pangulong Marcos Jr. ang bagong komposisyon sa Senado. Subalit lalabanan anya mga obstructionists na maaaring pansarili lamang ang kanilang ilalaban.
Ngayon po na naboto na po ang mga susunod na mga leaders natin, umaasa ang Pangulo na ang bawat isa, ang lahat sa kanila na binoto ng sambayanan ay tutugon sa pangangailangan ng taong bayan. Ang trabaho po nila ay para sa bayan, para sa taong bayan, hindi para sa ilang interes. So anumang kulay yan, wini-welcome po talaga ng Pangulo na makaisa ang bawat leaders natin para tugunan kung ano man ang problema at magbigyang solusyon ang pangangailangan ng mga kababayan natin. Inaasahan din po ng administrasyon ang presensya ng lehitimong oppositionist Pero lalabanan po ang mga obstructionist na nagtatago sa pangalan ng oppositionist. Mga obstructionist na maaaring pansarili lamang ang kanilang ilalaban.
Nanawagan ng Pilipinas sa North Korea na itigil nito ang paglulunsad ng mga ballistic missile. Sa inilabas ng pahayag ng Department of Foreign Affairs, sinabi nitong seryoso ang pagkabahala ng Pilipinas sa missile testing ng North Korea. Mariin din kinundena ng bansa ang isinagawang ballistic missile launch ng Pyongyang noong May 8. Ang mga ganitong provocative actions, anila ay sumisira sa pag-unlad ng ekonomiya, kapayapaan at katatagan sa Korean Peninsula at sa Indo-Pacific region. Hinikayat din ng Pilipinas ang North Korea na sumunod sa lahat ng mga international obligations nito, kabilang na ang mga resolution ng United Nations Security Council at makipag-ugnayan anila ang Pyongyang sa isang mapayapa at constructive na dialogue.
Hiniling ng mga abogado ni dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte sa International Criminal Court o ICC na idiskwalipika ang dalawang judges mula sa paghawak sa kanyang kasong crimes against humanity. Sa isang 11-page corrigendum, pinadidisqualify ng legal team ni Duterte sina Judge Reina Adala de Sophie Alpini Gansu at Judge Mara del Socorro Flores Alirarom sa paghatol sa isyu ng jurisdiksyon. Ikinatwira ng depensa ng pagtanggal sa dalawang hurado ay makatitiyak ng autonomy at irreproachability o hindi mapaparatangang katayuan ng mga hukom. Epektibo rin anilang may sasagawa mga pagdinig sa pamamagitan ng paglikha ng minimum degree of disturbance sa kasalukuyang komposisyon ng chamber. Mapapanatili rin ang naturang recourse ang karapatan ng dating Pangulo sa isang objectively impartial adjudication. Susunod, China may bago na namang iligal na istruktura sa East China Sea.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky dadalo lamang sa Turkey kung sasalubungin siya ni Russian President Vladimir Putin.
At US President Donald Trump nakatanggap ng malaking investment mula sa Saudi Arabia. Ang detalye po ng mga balitang yan sa pagbabalik ng Mata ng Agila International.
Namin ang iyong pagsisikap. Dama namin ang iyong mga sakripisyo. Kita namin ang pagharap mo sa bawat pagsubok. Kaya sa kabila ng mga hamon ng buhay, nandito kami para umalalay. Kasi katulad mo, gusto rin namin ang magandang bukas para sa kanya. Hatid namin ang dekalidad na edukasyon at makabagong pasilidad sa abot kayang halaga. Kaya huwag ka na mangamba. Sasamahan ka namin tuparin ang mga pangarap niya. Maaasahan mong sulit dito ang mga pinagsikapan mo. Sa aming mga makabagong pasilidad at sistema ng edukasyon. Mailalabas natin ang aking talino at mga kakayahan niya. Kahit sa munting halaga, makakasiguro ka na makakasabay siya sa mabilis na pag-ikot ng mundo. Sa new era, karamay mo kami sa bawat hamon. Kaagapay mo kami sa bawat hakbang. Kasama mo kami sa bawat ngiti at tagumpay.
naman ng Japanese Foreign Ministry ang hakbang ng China na pagpapatayo ng bagong istruktura sa may East China Sea na nasa Chinese side ng media line ng dalawang bansa. Pinaniniwalaang ang naturang istruktura ay konektado sa resource development sa lugar. Kaugnay nito, nagpadala si Masaaki Kanai, Director General ng Ministry of Asian and Oceanian Affairs Bureau ng isang written protest kay Chinese Embassy official Shi Yong. Dito, inihayag ng Japanese official na ang unilateral development efforts bago pa man ihiwalay ang exclusive economic zones ng dalawang bansa ay lubhang nakalulungkot. Una na kasing nagkasundo ang Japan at China na magkasamang ide-develop ang resources sa East China Sea, subalit natigil ang pag-uusap sa implementasyon ng naturang kasunduan. Subalit ipinagpatuloy pa rin ng China ang development efforts nito at sa kasalukuyan, umaabot na sa 18 structures ang kumpirmadong ipinatayo nito.
Malugod na sinalubong ni Chinese President Xi Jinping si Chilean President Gabriel Boric sa kanyang pagbisita sa Beijing. Ito ang 55th anniversary ng pagtatatag ng diplomatic relations sa pagitan ng China at Chile. Ayon kay Xi, sa lumipas na higit kalahating siglo ay hindi kailanman nagbago ang relasyon ng China at ng Chile at patuloy na nagiging simbolo ito sa lakas ng relasyon ng China at Latin America. Hinikayat ni Xi ang Chile na palakasin pa ang pagtitiwala nito sa China at patuloy na palakasin ang kanilang ugnayan pagdating sa kalakalan, usaping pampolitika at knowledge exchange. Nanawagan din si Xi na sana ay makiisa si Boric sa pagsusulong ng Belt and Road Cooperation ng China, pati ang pakikipagtulungan sa China sa aspekto ng agrikultura, cattle farming, minerals, infrastructure, industrial investment, and artificial intelligence. Bilang tugon naman ay sinabi ni Gabriel Boric na sumusunod ito sa alituntunin ng pagkakaparehas pagdating sa kalakalan at pakikipagtulungan. Nangako din ang Chile na nirerespeto nito ang One China Principle na isinusulong ng China.
Nanawagan si North Korean leader Kim Jong-un para sa pagkumpleto ng kanilang war preparations bago pa magsimula ang panibagong banta laban sa kanyang bansa.
김정은 동지께서는 현 시기 우리 혁명 무력이 맡고 있는 전선들이 적지 않지만 그 중에서도 가장 중요한 전선은 반제 계급 전선이고 가장 사활적인 임무는 전쟁 준비 완성이라고 하시면서
Hinimok ni North Korean leader Kim Jong-un ang kanyang bansa na maging handa sa pagsasagawa ng posibleng nuclear attack sa anumang oras para mapigilan ang posibleng giyera. Kasunod din ito ng pagpapalipad ng North Korea ng isang ballistic missile na mayroong mock nuclear warhead mula sa kanyang bagong destroyer. Kasabay nito ang firing drills na isinagawa ng North Korean Military Special Forces na naganap naman noong Miyerkules. Ayon sa North Korea, layunin ng naturang exercise na mapalakas ang war deterrence at nuclear counterattack capability ng kanilang bansa at para magpahayag ng babala sa mga kaalyado nito. Sinabi rin ng North Korea na hindi ito magdadalawang isip na gumamit ng puwersang militar laban sa Estados Unidos kapag hindi nito tinigilan ang kanilang pangungulit sa Russia.
Nanindigan si Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky na personal lamang itong dadalo sa ipinatawag na pag-uusap nila ng Russia sa Turkiye kapag dadalo rin si President Vladimir Putin.
Ми будемо чекати на зустріч з Путіним в Туреччині, щоб Росія не маніпулювала містами і не казала, що Путін не готовий прилітати в Анкару, а готовий летіти тільки в Стамбул. Я одразу хочу сказати, що якщо Путін прилітає в Стамбул, а не в столицю, я передав сигнал президенту Ердогану, і турецька сторона готова, що ми з президентом Ердоганом полетимо в Стамбул. Тобто в будь-якому випадку ми зробимо все, щоб ця зустріч відбулася. Якщо Путін дійсно готовий не тільки в медіа, а в реальному житті зустрічатись. І тоді на рівні лідерів ми зробимо все, щоб домовитись про припинення вогню. Бо саме з ним я повинен домовлятись про припинення вогню. Бо тільки він це вирішує.
Giit nitong hindi ito makikipag-usap sa sinumang tauhan o opisyal na kakatawan lamang kay Putin sa nasabing usapin. Handa umano si Zelensky na bumiyahe sa Turkiye matapos nahikayatin siya ni US President Donald Trump na harapin si Putin.
Ми запропонували президенту Трампу доєднатись. Я не знаю рішення президента Сполучених Штатів Америки, але у будь-якому випадку, якщо б він підтвердив свою участь, я думаю, що це би мало додатковий імпульс до того, щоб Путін прилетів.
Kinumpirma rin ng White House na magtutungo sa Turkiye si US Secretary of State Marco Rubio para dumalo sa itinaktang ceasefire deal. Magugunita pong patuloy ang ginagawang pagsulong ng US ng usaping pangkapayapaan sa pagitan ng Russia at ng Ukraine matapos ang mahigit na 3 taong labanan.
Результат номер 1 – це безумовне припинення вогню. Безумовне припинення вогню на сьогодні і згідно досвіду всіх цих днів, місяців, не може припинення вогню забезпечити будь-яка людина з боку Росії, окрім Путіна. Сигнал був від Росії щодо прямих перемовин. Підтримка Сполучених Штатів була щодо прямих перемовин на рівні лідерів. Я підтримую цю пропозицію. Буде, і він скаже, що готовий до припинення вогню, то тоді це відкриває шлях до проговорення всіх інших елементів закінчення війни. Всіх багатьох елементів. Тоді групи можуть зустрічатися і вже мають політичну волю лідера або лідерів. І це зрозуміло, що буде той чи інший результат. Буде шлях. Шлях відкрито. Якщо він боїться просто зі мною так зустрітися. If Putin will not come, or if ceasefire will not be supported by Russians, by Putin, exactly by him. So it's been only one thing, that Russia is not ready for any kind of negotiation. No time for playing games on the technical level. And it's
Inanunsyo ni US President Donald Trump na plano nilang tanggalin ang sanctions sa Syria.
There's a new government that will hopefully succeed in stabilizing the country and keeping peace. That's what we want to see in Syria. They've had their share of travesty, war, killing, many years. That's why my administration has already taken the first steps toward restoring normal relations between the United States and Syria for the first time in more than a decade.
Isinagawa nito ang anunsyo sa kanyang pagbisita sa Saudi Arabia. Ayon kay Trump, ang desisyon ay matapos na mapatalsik sa pwesto si Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. Dagdag pa ng US President, dahil wala na sa pamumuno si Assad, ay mabibigyan na ang mga mamamayan ng Syria ng tagumpay. Magugunitang noong nakaraang Disyembre nang pinatalsik si Assad dahil sa mga alegasyon ng korupsyon. Simula noon ay patuloy ang pag-iikot ni Syrian President Ahmed al-Sharaa upang muling buhayin ang reputasyon ng Syria sa international community at hikayatin ng mga foreign investors na pundaran ang Damascus. Ikinatuwa naman ng United Nations ang naging desisyong ito ni Trump, kung saan sinabi ni UN spokesperson Stefan Dujarric na isa na itong magandang oportunidad para makabangon muli ang Syria.
With the support of leaders in this room, and the great leaders you are, we are currently exploring normalizing relations with Syria's new government, as you know, beginning with my meeting with President Ahmed al-Sharaa and Secretary Rubio's meeting with the Syrian foreign minister in Turkey after discussing the situation with Crown Prince Mohammed and President Erdogan of Turkey. I am also ordering the cessation of sanctions against Syria to give them a fresh start. It gives them a chance for greatness. The sanctions were really crippling, very powerful. And I spoke to Mohammed, and I spoke to our friend from Turkey, who we just spoke to also by phone now, but felt very strongly that this would give them a chance. It's not going to be easy anyway, so it gives them a good, strong chance. And it was my honor to do so. So we've we will be dropping all of the sanctions on Syria, which I think really is going to be a good thing. And it actually, we made a speech last night, and that was the thing that got the biggest applause from the room. We had a very crowded room with thousands of people, and the statement that got the biggest applause was dropping the sanctions on Syria. Strongest enlistment.
Sinabi ng United Nations na malaking bagay ang mga komento ni US President Donald Trump ukol sa pagtanggal ng sanctions ito sa Syria. Alamin po natin ang mga detalye mula kay Marjorie Quintos.
Noong Martes, sinabi ni Pangulong Donald Trump ng Estados Unidos na ipag-uutos nitong alisin ang sanctions sa Syria. Ito aniya ay dahil kay Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Ang pahayag na ito ng US ay isang malaking policy shift bago ang pagpupulong nito kay Syrian Islamist President Ahmed al-Shara. Ayon sa White House, makikipagkita si Trump kay Shara sa pagbisita ng US President sa Saudi Arabia. Si Shara ay dating Al-Qaeda commander na namuno sa Syria matapos mapabagsak si Bashar al-Assad. Ayon sa Syrian presidential sources, magkikita ang dalawang leader ngayong Miyerkules. Ani Trump, ang desisyon niyang alisin ang sanctions sa Syria ay matapos silang mag-usap ni Mohammed bin Salman ng Saudi Arabia at President Tayyip Erdogan ng Turkey. Kapwa kinampanya ng dalawang leader ang pag-alis ng US sanctions mula sa Syria, katulad rin ng paghimok ng United Nations sa mga bansa na gawin din ito. Ayon kay UN spokesperson Stefan Dujarric, malaking bagay ang anunsyong ito ng US para sa pagbangon ng Syria.
Well, I think it was important for us to see relief on sanctions on Syria, to help the reconstruction of Syria, to help the Syrian people recover from more than a decade of conflict, a decade of underinvestment, and we continue to support the reconstruction, whether it's physical or psychological, of Syria, for it to be a country where all Syrians of all faiths, of all ethnicities and minorities feel safe and represented.
Ayon kay Trump, panahon na para sumulong ang Syria. Inilapat ng US ang sanctions nito sa Syria noong nasa kapangyarihan pa si Assad. Pinutol nito ang relasyon ng Syria sa global financial system, hinadlangan ang pamumuhunan ng ibang bansa at pakikipagkalakalan sa Damascus. Dahil dito, natigil ang pagbangon ng Syria mula sa pagkawasak dahil sa gyera. Marjorie Quintos para sa mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Itinuturing ng White House na naging matagumpay ang ginawang pagbisita ni US President Donald Trump.
واليوم نأمل على فرص شراكة بحجم 600 مليار دولار من بينها اتفاقيات تزيد عن 300 مليار دولار تم الإعلان عنها خلال هذا المنتدى. وسنعمل خلال الأشهر القادمة على المرحلة الثانية لإتمام بقية الاتفاقيات لرفعها إلى تريليون دولار. ليكون إنني يا فخامة الرئيس على ثقة أننا اليوم نواصل البناء معكم ومستندين إلى أسس الشراكة الوثيقة من بلدينا، وما وقعنا عليه اليوم هو جزء من طموح أكبر يستثمر فرص التعاون وتبادل المنافع بيننا. فخامة الرئيس أن عملنا المشترك لا يقتصر على التعاون الاقتصادي، وإنما يمتد إلى العمل على إحلال الأمن والسلام في المنطقة والعالم.
Ayon sa datos, aabot kasi sa $600 billion na halaga ng investment ang nalikom ni Trump sa kanyang pagbisita sa Saudi Arabia. Kasama na rin sa kasunduan ang $142 billion na halaga ng arms deal sa pagitan nila ng Saudi Arabia. Ito ang kauna-unahang pagkakataon na bumisita si Trump sa Saudi Arabia sa kanyang ikalawang termino. Pinuri ni Trump si Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman dahil sa magandang ginawa nito sa Saudi Arabia. Dahil anya sa mga investment na nakuha ni Trump ay ipinagmalaki nito na patuloy na ang pagbuhos ng yaman sa Estados Unidos. Kasama sa mga nilagdaang kasunduan ang mga proyekto sa energy, defense, mining at iba pa. Maaring lumaki pa ito sa $1 trillion ayon sa Crown Prince ng Saudi.
And with this trip, we're adding over $1 trillion more in terms of investment into our country and buying our products. And, you know, nobody makes military equipment like us. We have the best military equipment, the best missiles, the best rockets, the best everything. Best submarines, by the way. But it's going to go a lot higher. You see, we've never had anything like this happen. It's an explosion of investment and jobs, and great companies are coming in. Never seen anything like it. There's no better place to make a future or make a fortune.
Patay matapos pagbabarilin ang tumatakbo sa pagkaalkalde sa bansang Mexico. Nagsasagawa ng kanyang campaign rally si Yesenia Lara Gutierrez ng tumatakbong alkalde ng Veracruz State nang ito ay pagbabarilin. Habang ito ay abala sa pakikipagkamayan sa mga supporters nito, ay biglang na lamang umalingaw-ngaw ang mga putok ng baril.
Pues se le pegaron a ella por la parte de atrás y todo, y como era un montón de gente, tanto de los ranchos que también estaban aquí los otros señores haciendo su meeting, pues otro grupo que llegó con ella para saludar, pues ahí se aprovecharon.
Es una injusticia muy cruel, ¿no? Porque cuando Tezistepec era tranquilo, ahorita mira, en lo que se resulta, tanta injusticia, tanto asesinato.
Kinundina ni Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum ang insidente kung saan kaagad na ipinag-utos nito ang malalimang investigasyon. Ito na po ang pangalawang insidente ng pamamaril ng kandidato sa Mexico ngayong taon. Noong unang araw ng official campaign period ay pinagbabaril si Hermana Anwar Valencia sa kanyang campaign headquarters sa Coquixi, Veracruz.
Nos sentimos indignados, tristes, destrozados porque vuelve a repetirse la historia. Después de 2 años y medio, perder a mi hermano y hoy a mi cuñada y dejar a sus hijos huérfanos. Es algo muy triste, que sentimos una impotencia, pero también creemos que nuestra presidenta Claudia Sheinbaum y nuestra gobernadora tendrían que tomar cartas en el asunto y que decirte que pido justicia terrenal.
Samantala pumanaw rin ang dating presidente ng Uruguay na si Jose Mujica sa edad na 89. Si Mujica ang itinuturing na isa sa pinakahuwarang nagsilbing pangulo ng bansa. Nagsilbi si Mujica bilang pang-4 na pangulo ng bansa mula 2010 hanggang 2015. Bago maging presidente ay kinilala siya bilang isang geriya o freedom fighter ng kanilang bansa na mahigpit na kinakalaban ang korupsyon ng kanilang gobyerno. Itinuturing siya na naging arkitekto at naging susi para sa pagiging isa sa mga pinakaprogresibong demokratiko sa Latin America at Uruguay. Matapos ang kanyang termino bilang presidente ay nagsilbi rin siya sa Senado hanggang taong 2020 bago siya tuluyang nagretiro mula sa politika. Nagpaabot ng pakikiramay ang ilang world leaders sa natuto sa ilalim ng kanyang paggabay at pamamalakad.
José Mujica era um ser humano, sabe, muito importante para a democracia, para os setores progressistas da sociedade, para a esquerda. Eu tento chegar na Brasília e eu entendo bem Mujica porque eu acho que o mínimo que a gente tem que fazer é se despedir das pessoas que serviram de referência para a gente com demonstração de muita dignidade e de muito respeito.
Nakilala si Mujica ng international community bilang world's poorest president. Ito ay dahil sa kanyang simpleng paraan ng pamumuhay kung saan tinanggihan niya ang paninirahan sa presidential palace. Sa halip ay pinili nitong patuloy na tumira sa kanyang maliit na farmhouse malayo sa syudad. Ipinamahagi rin ni Mujica ang malaking parte ng kanyang sweldo para sa mga nangangailangan.
Manera tiene que plantearse algunas cuestiones que son de carácter mundial. Y los países centrales son los que tienen mayor responsabilidad.
Susunod, Greece niyanig ng magnitude 6.1 na lindol.
Mga bigating negosyante nagdagsaan sa Saudi Arabia.
At Indiana Pacers, babalik na sa conference finals. Mga karagdagang mga balita pa po sa pagbabalik ng Mata ng Agila International.
kasulukuyang henerasyon, marami na ang nag-viral. Dahil po yan sa kanilang ginagawang pagtulong sa kapwa. Pero mas marami ang tumutulong kahit walang nakakakita. Kaya naman kung ikaw ay may kilala na grupo o individual na may natatanging pagresponde sa lipunan at maging sa kalikasan, mag-text lamang sa 0915-415-1035 o mag-email sa responde@net25.com at magpadala ng mensahe sa ating Facebook page at NET25 TV. Baka kayo na ang susunod nating Certified Key Responder.
Let's net together sa NET25. Sa NET25.
Babalik ang mata ng Agila International sa pagpapatuloy po ng ating mga balita ngayong gabi. Niyanig na malakas ang magnitude 6.1 na lindolang Greece. Ayon po yan sa United States Geological Survey o USGS. Dahil dito, anunsyo na ng Greek Emergency Management ng posibleng tsunami risk kasunod ng pagyanig ng lupa. Pinalikas na rin ng mga otoridad ang mga residente malapit sa mga coastal areas. Namataan ang epicenter ng lindol malapit sa 9 miles south ng Fry, Greece.
Nakaligtas ang isang motorista sa Miaoli County sa Taiwan matapos ang isang rockfall sa kahabaan ng Miao 62 Line Road. Ayon sa lokal na ulat, nagdulot ng traffic ang rockfall dahil sa naipong mga bato sa kalsada. Dineploy na ng Dahu Township ang kanilang heavy machinery para alisin ang mga debris. Pinaniniwala ang dahil sa malakas na buhos ng ulan kung kaya't naganap ang rockfall sa lugar. Patuloy namang inaayos ng Miaoli County Department of Transportation and Public Works ang naging pinsala sa kalsada. Inabisuhan na rin ng ahensya ang publiko, partikular ang mga motorista na pansamantala munang dumaan sa itinalaga nilang alternative routes.
Nagdulot ang panic sa mga bisita ng isang amusement park sa Hebei Province, China matapos mag-malfunction ang park rides dito na ikinasakit ng mga tourists. Ayon sa lokal na ulat, biglang bumilis ang rides at tumilapo na maraming mga sakay nito sa lupa hanggang sa magkumpulan na ang mga ito. Karamihan po sa mga biktima ay nagtamo ng bali sa ilang bahagi ng kanilang katawan. Humingi naman ng paumanhin ang management ng Tani Valley Scenic Area sa naging insidente at kanilang sinisikap na hindi na maulit ang ganitong trahedya. Hindi naman tinukoy ng management ang kabuoang bilang ng mga nasaktan sa insidente. Sa ngayon, isinara ang seksyon ng parke para sa masusing inspeksyon.
Dinala sa pagamutan ng isang bata sa Jingdezhen City sa Jiangxi, China matapos magulungan ng isang kotse. Ayon sa lokal na ulat, nakikipaglaro ang batang biktima ng tagu-taguan sa isang mga bata nang napagdesisyon na nitong sumiksik sa isang karton sa daan. Pero nang lumabas na ito mula sa kahon, ay biglang sumulpot ang isang kotse at nadaanan nito ang binti ng bata. Sobrang sakit ay napaiyak ang kaawa-awang bata at narinig ito ng tatay at lolo niya. Agad namang itinigil ng driver ang sasakyan at umatras ng dahan-dahan. Nagtamo ng minor injury sa paa ang bata at kasalukuyan itong nagpapagaling.
Sinabi ng Mexico na hihigpitan nito ang pagpasok ng karne ng mga baka sa kanilang bansa. Ito ay upang limitahan ang pagkalat ng screwworm. Ang screwworm po ay isang flesh-eating maggot na maaaring pumatay sa baka o sa iba pang kinakapitan nito sa loob lamang ng ilang linggo. Kumalat ito kamakailan sa Katimugang Mexico. At dahil dito, sinuspinde ng Estados Unidos ang pag-angkat ng baka mula sa kalapit na bansa. Sinabi ni Mexican Agriculture Minister Julio Verdegue na nagpapatupad na ito ng serye ng mga hakbang katulad ng pagkontrol ng pagpasok ng baka, maging karne nito, pagsusuri sa mga rancho at pag-inspeksyon sa mga estado.
Con su permiso, señora presidenta, buenos días. Y el 10 de mayo nos avisaron que nos iban a cerrar la frontera. Finalmente pude hablar con la secretaria Rawlings el domingo 11 de mayo y acordamos una suspensión temporal por 15 días, periodo en el cual vamos a ver qué nuevas medidas, qué podemos reforzar para que en 15 días ellos hagan su evaluación y nos abran la frontera nuevamente, que es lo que México espera.
Sa kabila nito, ibinisura ni Verdegue ang ideyang pagsasara ng southern border ng bansa dahil sa mga bakang galing ng Central America.
Acordamos una serie de medidas que ya están en implementación, reforzar la movilización, el control a la movilización del ganado. Vamos a hacer un barrido desde el Golfo de México hasta el Pacífico, a la altura de Veracruz, hasta llegar a Oaxaca y sur de Guerrero, visitando el 100% de los ranchos a inspeccionar. Estamos teniendo reuniones diarias con APHIS. En fin, estamos haciendo todo lo que es materialmente posible hacer.
Samantala, ginarantiya naman ni Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum na itutuloy ang pag-angkat ng livestock matapos ang 2 linggo.
Entonces no estamos de acuerdo con esta medida. Habló el secretario Verdegue con la secretaria de Agricultura de Estados Unidos. Se planteó que van a ser 15 días para poder seguir trabajando y esperamos que muy pronto se levante esta medida.
Noong 1 buwan kung paano tutugunan ang pesteng screwworm na maaaring puminsala sa mga hayop at magdala ng mga uod na bumabaon sa balat ng mga hayop na nagiging dahilan ng pagkamatay ng mga ito.
Nagdagsaan ang mga CEO papuntang Saudi Arabia upang makipagpulong kina Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman at US President Donald Trump. Kasama sa mga dumalo sina OpenAI CEO Sam Altman, BlackRock CEO Larry Fink, FIFA President Gianni Infantino, Tesla CEO Elon Musk at si Palantir CEO Alex Karp. Ipinakita ng mga CEO sa mga Gulf leaders ang mga modelong proyekto sa ilalim ng Vision 2030 katulad ng NEOM, isang planned city futuristic na kasing laki ng Belgium na planong ipatayo sa Saudi Arabia. Tinatawag nila itong City of the Future na naglalayong paliitin ang carbon footprint at zone requirement ng mga mamamayan sa lungsod. Isa-isa ring iprinisinta ng mga negosyante ang kanilang pinakabagong teknolohiya sa layuning tangkilikin ito ng mga Gulf states para sa kanilang depensa.
So we just showed several of our Tesla Optimus robots to His Highness and President Trump, and I think they were very impressed. In fact, one of our robots did the Trump dance, which I think was pretty cool. I'd also like to thank the Kingdom for approving Starlink for maritime and aviation use. Thank you.
Maritime and aviation. We could not be more appreciative of having a lifetime partner and a friend like you, Elon, to the Kingdom.
Thank you.
Joining hands on XAI, Starlink, and robotics and Tesla. Thank you.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Inanunsyo naman ng Burberry na plano nitong magbawas ng 20% or that's 1,700 jobs sa global workforce nito. Na isang luxury fashion brand na makabawi matapos itong malugi na mahigit 3 million pounds. Isa sa mga maaapektuhang pabrika ay sa Castleford sa West Yorkshire. Target din ng kumpanya na itaas ang cost-cutting nito sa 100 million pounds per year pagsapit ang taong 2027.
Opisyal nang nagkaroon ng sariling operating system para sa mga PC ang Huawei para tapatan ang mga Western rivals nito. Ayon sa Huawei, all systems go na ang kanilang Harmony OS PC para sa kanilang mga computer products. Paliwanag ng Chinese firm, ang Harmony OS PC ay may mahigit sa 150 exclusive applications at integrations para sa higit 2,000 universal ecosystem apps. Tiniyak ng Huawei na kahit bago ang kanilang OS ay compatible ito sa maraming software. Iginiit din ng kumpanya na gumagamit din ito ng Artificial Intelligence o AI para mapabilis pa ang sistema nito. Sa kabila ng announcement na ito ay hindi tuwirang ibinahagi ng Huawei ang kabuuang user interface ng kanilang sariling operating system.
Simula sa katapusan ng Mayo ay sisimulan na ng Tesla ang pagkuha ng components ng cybercab nito sa China. Ito po ay matapos magkasundo ang Estados Unidos at China na tapyasan ang kanilang reciprocal tariffs. Target ng Tesla na simulan ngayong Oktubre ang cybercab production nito sa Texas at semi-trucks production nito sa Nevada. Subalit, ayon sa analysts, maaari pa ring magbago ang sitwasyong ito dahil umano sa hindi tiyak na kalakaran ng Administrasyong Trump. Layo ni Trump tariffs o ng Trump tariffs na iangat ang manufacturing at tech production sa US. Tumanggi namang magbigay ng pahayag ang Tesla ukol sa nasabing issue.
Tinapos na ng Indiana Pacers ang serye nito laban sa top Eastern Conference team na Cleveland Cavaliers matapos ibulsa ang Game 5 at tapusin ang serye 4-1. Panibagong team effort ang ipinakita ng Pacers kung saan 5 players nito ang kumamada ng double-digit scores sa pangunguna ng star guard na si Tyrese Haliburton na nagpasok ng 31 points at 8 assists. Nag-ambag naman ng 21 points ang NBA champion na si Pascal Siakam kasama ang 8 rebounds. Ito na ang ikalawang magkasunod na season na makakapasok ang Pacers sa conference finals. Noong 2024 ay nakalaban ng Pacers ang Boston, ngunit nabigo sila sa finals sa defending champions ang Boston Celtics. Sa kasalukuyan, maghihintay pa ang Pacers ng sino mang mananalo sa pagitan ng New York Knicks at Boston Celtics na makakalaban naman sa Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah, man, it's a special feeling, to be honest with you. I'm not going to sit here and talk like I got so many years of experience. You know, I'm in my 5th year. But something I've learned from my vets and just being in the NBA for enough time is to not take winning for granted, you know, and this is a special time, you know, back-to-back Eastern Conference Finals. We're not done. We still got, you know, a ways to go, but it's a special feeling, man. And, you know, watching the lottery last night, I remember being our representative at the lottery a couple of years ago and not wanting to, you know, to go back. So it's special, man. This group is special. You know, this has been built by many different, you know, moves, and adding P has, you know, been huge for us, and we just kind of went from there. But yeah, man, I don't take this for granted. It's a lot of fun, and winning is fun. So, you know, we just want to continue to do what we're doing and just take this a day at a time. Enjoy this one tonight, but, you know, be ready for whoever's next.
Ipinilasap ng Oklahoma City Thunder ang una nilang series lead sa kabila ng all-star performance ni Nikola Jokic, 3-2. Mistulang naghiganti ang OKC mula sa blow-for-blow exchange nito simula pa lamang ng semifinals. Nauna ang Denver na makakuha ng series lead na agad-agad namang tinatapatan ng Thunder. Ito pa lang ang unang pagkakataon ng koponan ni Shai Gilgeous-Alexander na makalamang sa serye. Nanguna sa panalo ng Thunder ang guard na si Shai Gilgeous-Alexander na kumamada ng 31 points, 6 assists at 7 rebounds. Sinabayan din ito ng playoff performance ni Jalen Williams at Isaiah Hartenstein. Hindi kinaya ng all-star performance ni Nikola Jokic buhatin ang Nuggets sa fourth quarter. Nagtalaga si Joker ng 44 points, 15 rebounds, and 5 assists. Balik Denver home court naman ang Western Conference matchup.
Guilty sa kasong sexual assault si French film star at Hollywood actor Gerard Depardieu. Ayon sa korte ng Paris ay nahaharap siya sa mahigit 1 taong pagkakakulong para sa panghaharas ng 2 kababaihan sa set ng pelikulang kanilang pinagtrabahuhan. May kinalaman ng kaso na nangyari noong 2021 sa Paris kung saan nagsampa ng reklamo laban sa aktor ang isang set designer at assistant director. Inilabas ang desisyon na sampahan ng aktor matapos ang ginawang pag-aaral sa mga ebidensya na nakalap ng French gendarmerie. Ang kaso ay hindi formal na may isa sa katuparan hanggat hindi nagtutungo ang aktor sa Paris, kasalukuyang nagtatrabaho si Depardieu sa isang pelikula sa Azores.
Inilabas na po ni Nicolas Cage at ng streaming platform na Amazon Prime ang trailer ng Spider-Noir. Ang Spider-Noir ang magiging pinakabagong parte ng Spider-Verse bago pa ilabas ang inaabangang sequel movie na Beyond the Spider-Verse. Sinabi ng network executives na matagal na nila itong pinaplano matapos ang panawagan ng mga fans para sa solo Spider-Man project ni Cage dahil sa kanyang pagboses kay Spider-Man Noir noong unang pelikula na Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Gaganapin ni Cage ang iconic Peter Parker, subalit mangyayari ang istorya sa 1930s New York. Makakasama niya sina Lamorne Morris, Brendan Gleeson, Abraham Pupula, Lee Jun Lee, Karen Rodriguez, and Jack Huston.
Patuloy ang pagpapagaling ng American rapper na si Tory Lanez matapos na siya ipagsasasaksakin sa loob ng kulungan. Ayon sa kampo nito, nagtamo ang rapper na 14 na saksak kabilang ang 7 beses sa likod, 4 sa kanyang torso, 2 sa likod ng ulo at 1 sa kaliwang bahagi ng mukha. Nagtamo rin ang rapper ng pagka-collapse ng kanyang baga, kaya ito ay nilagyan ng breathing apparatus. Dakong alas 7 ng umaga nang ito ay pinagsasaksak ng kapwa inmates ng California Correctional Institution in Tehachapi. Si Lanez o Daystar Peterson ay nakakulong dahil sa pamamaril sa paa kay Megan Thee Stallion noong 2020. Susunod, libu-libong rubber ducks nagunahan sa isang river derby.
Isang grupo ng scientists gumawa ng isang robotic wedding cake.
Abangan ang iba pang mga storya pagdating ni Alma Angeles at ng NET25 World News. Magmuna po kayong bibitiw, magbabalik pa ang mata ng Agila International.
Trust Construction. Your trust. Sunday lunchtime? Looking for classic movies?
They've turned on to Elm Street.
Get ready for action.
Start filming.
Every big eye. Me. Drama.
We'll race here today.
And more family entertaining movies.
There's a storm in the way. We came here to do a job.
And all of this for dogs?
Paddington? Sorry.
Relax and enjoy your weekend noontime. Every Sunday, 12 noon, on Cine Throwback, here on NET25.
Let's get together. Sa NET25. Sa NET25.
Sinubaybayan ng mga residente ng Greenville, South Carolina ang buong karera ng mga rubber ducks sa taunang River Duck Derby nito. Ayon sa lokal na ulat, nasa 14,000 mga rubber ducks ang dineploy sa ilog para sa karera. Layo ng event na ito na makapangolekta ng pondo para gamitin sa charities sa lugar. Higit sa derby, pwedeng mag-enjoy ang mga bisita sa live music, face painting, mga palaro at food trucks.
Nag-bake ang isang team ng Swiss-Italian scientists ng isang edible robotic wedding cake kung saan may mga sumasayaw na gummy bears and chocolate edible batteries and candles. Tinawag ito ng mga scientists na RoboCake. Layo ng proyektong ito na pagsamahin ng robotics at culinary expertise para bigyan diin ang mga sustainable solutions para sa waste reduction at potensyal na aplikasyon para sa health and environmental monitoring. Paliwanag ng team, bawat piraso ng cake ay makakain. Ang edible rechargeable battery na naka-install dito ay gawa naman sa ingredients katulad ng vitamin B2, quercetin, activated carbon at dark chocolate.
The dancing bears are made of gelatin, especially designed gelatin that has very good flavor and consistency. They have inner tubes that can be pressurized by a pump. It's like a system of arteries in our bodies and the heart. And their bodies are made in such a way that they have special cuts and special thickness, so that when the corresponding arteries in the bears are inflated by the heart, the bear will tend to move in desired direction. For example, the necks will move up and down, and the arms will move so that the two bears hug each other.
Narito po kami para maghatid ng balita saan mang dako ng mundo. Magandang gabi, ako po muli si Ricky Matay.
Ako si Nina Richie Alagaw Flores. Ito po ang mata ng Agila International. Para naman po sa iba pang mga balitang nangyari rin sa iba't ibang panig ng mundo, punta tayo kay Alma Angeles para sa NET25 World News. Take it away, Alma.
Thank you, Nina Enrique. Good evening, everyone. I'm Alma Angeles for NET25 World News. On tonight's headlines. In a stunning reversal, U.S. President Donald Trump has begun a face-to-face meeting with Syria's president in Saudi Arabia today, just after Washington announced a complete lifting of sanctions on the Islamist-led government.
We are currently exploring normalizing relations with Syria's new government, as you know. It gives them a chance for greatness. The sanctions were really crippling, very powerful.
And the news starts now. U.S. President Donald Trump began a meeting with Syria's president in Saudi Arabia today, according to a Washington Post poll report, after a surprise U.S. announcement it will lift all sanctions on the Islamist-led government. Despite concerns within sectors of his administration over Syria's leaders' former ties to al-Qaeda, Trump said during a speech in Riyadh he would lift sanctions on Syria. The U.S. president has agreed to say hello to interim Syrian President Ahmed al-Shara, who will be in Riyadh for meetings with the Gulf Cooperation Council. Trump's first day of a 4-day swing through the Gulf region was marked by lavish ceremony and business deals, including a $600 billion commitment from Saudi Arabia to invest in the U.S. and a $142 billion in U.S. arms sales to the kingdom.
In a major U.S. policy shift, President Donald Trump said on Tuesday he would order the lifting of sanctions on Syria at the behest of Saudi Arabia's crown prince.
They've had their share of travesty, war, killing, many years. That's why my administration has already taken the first steps toward restoring normal relations between the United States and Syria for the first time in more than a decade.
Trump made the surprise announcement at the start of a tour of Gulf Arab states that began in Saudi Arabia. A sanctions reprieve would be a huge boost for Syria's Islamist president and former al-Qaeda commander Ahmed al-Shara, who was looking to stabilize a country shattered by more than a decade of civil war. The White House and two Syrian presidential sources said Trump is set to say hello to Shara on Wednesday in Saudi Arabia. Trump said he made the decision after discussions with Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan, whose governments have both strongly urged the lifting of sanctions.
Now it's their time to shine. It's their time to shine. So I say good luck, Syria. Show us something very special.
The United Nations, which has been pushing countries to lift sanctions on Syria, welcomed the move.
It was important for us to see relief on sanctions on Syria.
The U.S. imposed sanctions during Bashar al-Assad's rule. The sanctions cut Syria off from the global financial system and deterred foreign investment and trade, hampering efforts to rebuild from the war. Damascus residents celebrated Trump's decision. It feels like a mountain has been lifted off our chest, said this local. Trump's announcement comes despite Israel's deep suspicion of Sharah's administration. Israeli officials have continued to describe Sharah as a jihadist. Sharah was, for years, the leader of al-Qaeda's official wing in the Syrian conflict. He first joined al-Qaeda in Iraq, where he spent 5 years in a U.S. prison.
The people of Syria have suffered under the sanctions. They've suffered from natural disasters in the past few years. There was an earthquake not very long ago. And levels of poverty are extremely high. One of the biggest industries is the drug trade. One of the biggest industries is the drug trade in Captagon, which isn't good either. So if you want Syria to be able to make it as a country and not fall apart into a renewed civil war, it makes sense that you would want sanctions to be lifted and to have a chance to work with Syria's leaders to try to bring that about. The president should also be cautious, like the United States should be cautious too, because you don't want to go whole hog in and invest in any particular regime, because even though they've stayed for 6 months, there's no guarantee that they're going to continue beyond 6 months, right? What we saw in Syria is truly a revolution, right? A new regime came to power that wants to reorder society in a fundamental way. It's not going to be a dynasty the way that it was under the Assads. And anytime that happens, there's so much sort of at stake and so much up in the air that things can change in really unpredictable ways.
A potentially record-breaking gift to the U.S. government is sparking a fierce political battle. President Trump's plan to accept a $400 million Boeing 747-8 from the Qatari royal family is facing sharp criticism, with accusations of naked corruption and national security threats flying from Capitol Hill.
U.S. President Donald Trump is facing pushback from Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer to his plan to accept a Boeing 747-8 airplane similar to this one as a gift from the Qatari royal family. The $400 million plane is expected to be outfitted to serve as Air Force One, according to a source briefed on the matter. It would be one of the most valuable gifts ever received by the U.S. government. Schumer on Tuesday said the offer was, quote, naked corruption and a grave national security threat.
So in light of the deeply troubling news of a possible Qatari-funded Air Force One and the reports that the Attorney General personally signed off on this clearly unethical deal, I am announcing a hold on all DOJ political nominees until we get more answers.
Trump said on Monday, as he prepared to head to the Middle East, that he was disappointed that Boeing was taking so long to deliver the new Air Force One planes he commissioned during his first term as president, and that it would be stupid to turn down the generous offer.
I thought it was a great gesture, and I think it was a gesture because of the fact that we have helped and continue to, we will continue to, all of those countries, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, and others, we keep them safe. If it wasn't for us, they probably wouldn't exist right now. And I think this was just a gesture of good faith. And I don't get it. Someday it'll be like Ronald Reagan. They decommission them. They get to a certain age, they decommission them. It'll go to my library.
Trump, who toured a Qatari-owned 747-8 in February when it was parked at Palm Beach International Airport, said he would not use the plane for personal reasons after leaving office.
Now, closer to home, the midterm elections have brought some interesting results, showcasing the power of youth engagement. And we're seeing this play out with Senator-elect Bam Aquino, who's making it clear that young voters were crucial to his comeback, and he's giving a huge shout-out to the youth, saying they were absolutely key to his win, securing that impressive second-highest vote count.
Alam niyo po, nung nagsimula po tayo, napakalayo po natin. Pero unti-unti po nating naayakyat ang ating estado. Gawa po ng tulong ng Diyos at syempre ng sipag, tiyaga at pagtutulungan ng taong bayan. Kasama syempre ang kabataan. Ngayon po, napakalaki na po ng ating mandato at sisiguraduhin po nating seseryosohin po natin ang trabaho ng pagiging senador ng Republika ng Pilipinas at magtatrabaho tayo para sa pag-angat ng pamilyang Pilipino.
Meanwhile, the European Union's team of election observers has released its initial assessment of the recent midterm polls here in the Philippines. And while they noted the strong commitment of Filipino voters to democracy, they also raised some significant concerns. Presenting their preliminary statement today, Chief Observer Marta Temido detailed what they witnessed and the reports they received during the election period. On May 12, Filipino voters went to the polls demonstrating a strong commitment to democracy and civic values despite the persistence of vote buying, which the Commission on Elections only partially addressed through regulations and initiatives. Temido specifically pointed to credible indications and reports of vote buying.
To be experienced and competent. Complex communication efforts with voters were proactive and diverse, and for the first time included the distribution of personalized voter information sheets to all registered voters. By voting, citizens demonstrated a strong commitment to democracy and civic values. The elections were held against the backdrop of election-related violence, including on election day, widespread vote buying, the continued dominance of few political families, and a legal framework that is fragmented, dispersed, and lacks coherence. The media reports that at least 30 people, including several candidates and election officials, were killed on the period leading to the elections. Only on election day, at least 10 persons were killed. Some may say that the violence was less severe than in previous elections here in the Philippines. However, there is no room for violence in a democratic society. Violence is not a matter of statistics. It is about human lives. We heard many times that there was more gold in these elections. EU observers witnessed several credible indications and received reports of vote buying through cash and goods, as well as distribution of ayuda. Vote buying is also rooted in poverty. When daily life is a struggle, then some food, a small amount of money, or essential services, healthcare, or funeral expenses offered in exchange for votes can feel like a tangible benefit. Vote buying remains entrenched and endemic and requires a major engagement to be adequately addressed.
However, they did acknowledge some positive aspects of the campaign. Despite that, the campaign was vibrant and media coverage pluralistic, both which enhanced voters' ability to make an informed choice. Adding his voice to the concerns about violence was Vladimir Prebilic, head of the European Parliament delegation that joined the EU observer mission. He said violence during an election is utterly unacceptable, particularly when it results in the loss of dozens of lives. A democratic electoral process should never be associated with such tragic incidents. Former President Rodrigo Duterte has secured a landslide mayoral victory in Davao City, a win his camp sees as a powerful rebuke to efforts to erase his legacy. His lawyer, Nicholas Kaufman, called it a total rejection of the Marcos administration's attempts to silence him. British-Israeli lawyer Nicholas Kaufman, Duterte's legal counsel in the International Criminal Court, said, quote, the electorate showed its clear desire for the former president's return to the Philippines and its total rejection of the Marcos government's vain attempt to stamp out his legacy. Despite ICC charges of crimes against humanity related to his drug war, Duterte won with over 659,000 votes, crushing his rival. His family also saw widespread wins with his sons and grandsons securing key local positions. His daughter thanked supporters, saying, "You can't bring a good man down."
The Dutertes had shown in this election that they remain a force to reckon with in Philippine domestic politics. We have seen not only the landslide victory of former President Duterte, even though he was not there physically to campaign because of him being transferred and is now in trial, undergoing trial in The Hague. And his son, Baste, the current mayor, will be the vice mayor, and most likely in the physical absence of his father, he will be taking the place as a city mayor. And Rodrigo's other son, Pulong, is the Davao City the first district representative, if I'm not mistaken. And the second district representative is the son of Pulong. And so I think all five Dutertes who run for posts this election won. And we have also seen the VP Sara endorsing candidates, even though she went into active campaign mode late in the game. She was still able to get the five people winning seats, and very convincing wins. So top one, top three posts were, of course, I think top six also were from the PDP Laban or those of strongly allied with the Duterte clan. And so it shows that they continue to have strong appeal, especially in Mindanao and the Visayas. And we have seen the backlash on leaders who have been critical of the Dutertes and those who the public viewed as being, balimbing or star-proof. They're changing allegiances, shifting political loyalties. I mean, absent no political loyalties, and then they just simply shed their color depending on whether it's convenient or not. And so the voters have showed their displeasure against this kind of behavior. We have seen that at the local level as well as at the congressional level.
And now to the latest from Ukraine. President Zelensky is saying point blank that a ceasefire with Russia can only happen if he sits down face to face with President Putin. And he's really pushing for this meeting, and he's even got a location in mind, and that is Turkey.
We will wait for the meeting with Putin in Turkey in order to prevent any Russian manipulation over cities and to prevent them from saying that Putin is not ready to come to Ankara, but only to Istanbul. I want to say, if Putin flies to Istanbul and not to the capital, I've already sent a signal to President Erdogan, and the Turkish side are ready for President Erdogan and myself to fly to Istanbul. In any case, we will do everything possible to make sure this meeting happens. If Putin is ready to meet, not only for media purposes but in real life, then on the level of leaders we will do everything to agree on a ceasefire. Because I must reach a deal about a ceasefire with him, because he is the only person who can decide.
Саме з ним я повинен домовлятись про припинення вогню, бо тільки він це вирішить.
Zelensky also mentioned inviting the U.S. president to these potential talks happening this Thursday. But there's no confirmation yet if that will actually happen. The U.S. president had mentioned being open to joining those discussions earlier this week while he was in the region.
Thursday's meeting with Russia and Ukraine is very important. I was very insistent that that meeting take place. I think good things can come out of that meeting. Stop the bloodshed of the horrible, it's a bloodbath. Don't underestimate Thursday in Turkey. President Erdogan is going to be a great host. and we are doing some work with him having to do with Syria, too, by the way. We're going to have to make a decision on the sanctions, which we may very well relieve. We may take them off of Syria because we want to give them a fresh start. But I think you're going to have maybe a good meeting. You have the potential for a good meeting, that a meeting wasn't going to take place. I insisted that that meeting take place, and it is taking place. And I think you may have a good result out of the Thursday meeting in Turkey between Russia and Ukraine. And I believe the two leaders were going to be there. I was thinking about flying over. I don't know where I'm going to be on Thursday. I've got so many meetings. But I was thinking about actually flying over there. There's a possibility of it, I guess, if I think things can happen. But we got to get it done. We got to save 5,000 lives a week. 5,000 lives is really more than that. It's worse than that.
Russian President Vladimir Putin is urging Europe to follow America's lead when it comes to dealing with Russia. He points out that despite all the tensions, Russia is still supplying nuclear fuel to the United States, even as Europe cuts those ties. President Putin says the EU is putting politics ahead of its own economy, while the US is being more practical.
And we have shown great growth in the previous years. And those who tried to stand in our way, those who tried to harm us with sanctions, ultimately harming themselves with those sanctions. The states, despite anything, have been very pragmatic. They have never forgotten their own agenda. We still supply nuclear fuel to the United States. You're laughing here, but that's the way it is. Because it's profitable, it turns a profit, and all the better for them. And their economy is growing at a decent rate, not 4.3%, but still decent, while Europe's key economies have slumped. This is what we should do. We should be very pragmatic in every hour step.
U.S. energy officials are sounding the alarm about a potential security threat hidden within key components of renewable energy infrastructure. Now, we're talking about devices made in China that play a vital role in connecting solar panels and wind turbines to our power grids, as well as being found in batteries and electric vehicle chargers. These devices, called power inverters, are essential for bringing clean energy online. While they're designed to be accessed remotely for updates, a concerning discovery has been made by U.S. experts. Sources familiar with the matter tell us that inside some of these Chinese-made inverters and batteries, they found unexplained communication equipment, devices not listed in any of the product documents. And these includes things like cellular radios. Mike Rogers, former director of the U.S. National Security Agency, said, "We know that China believes there's value in placing at least some elements of our core infrastructure at risk of destruction or disruption. I think that the Chinese are in part hoping that the widespread use of inverters limits the options that the West has to deal with the security issue. The worry here is that these hidden communication channels could allow firewalls, the security measures designed to block direct communication back to China, to be bypassed. Experts warn that if these rogue devices were exploited remotely, the consequences could be catastrophic, potentially destabilizing power grids, damaging energy infrastructure, and even triggering widespread blackouts." And the news continues here on NET25. We'll be right back.
A young woman all alone in a small car from London to Lagos. British-Nigerian content creator Palumi Nubi is braving the road. Palumi embarked on her adventure from Europe to West Africa, a journey fraught with dangers, setbacks and disasters. First it's off to Dover and onto the ferry. She continues through France and Spain to Gibraltar to catch the next ferry to the African continent, landing in Morocco.
Now I'm on the continent, Lagos. I'm coming for you, come on.
Rev.
And And we also have troubling news out of Burkina Faso, where the country has been hit by two separate and deadly attacks. Sources on the ground are reporting that a military base in the north was targeted, resulting in the deaths of multiple soldiers simultaneously. A separate assault in the south has claimed the lives of dozens of civilians. Take a look.
Footage from social media appears to show a militant attack on an army base in northern Burkina Faso. Multiple soldiers were killed, sources have said, while a separate assault in the south left dozens of civilians dead. It's violence that underscores a spiraling insecurity in the junta-led country. Reuters has verified the location of this video by cross-referencing it with satellite imagery. The date could not be verified, though two security sources said the Djibo base came under attack on Sunday. There was no immediate claim of responsibility, though the area is near where Al-Qaeda affiliate JNIM operates. Burkina Faso is ruled by Ibrahim Traoré, who seized power in a 2022 coup. He's promised to turn the tide against a jihadist insurgency that spread across the region since it first took root in Mali 13 years ago. However, militant attacks persist in much of the country. A local official in the southern province of Kulpelogo said at least 58 civilians were killed there after 3 villages came under attack over several days, starting on Thursday evening. The government did not immediately respond to a request for comment.
Can the U.S. Supreme Court reshape who's a citizen at birth? President Trump's bold attempt to curb automatic birthright citizenship lands before the justices this week, but with a twist you might not expect. Federal judges in Washington, Massachusetts, and Maryland hit pause on Trump's January executive order, calling it likely unconstitutional because of the 14th Amendment's plain language. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens. But instead of diving into the legal merits, the White House is arguing before the Supreme Court that those lower court judges overstepped by issuing universal injunctions, nationwide blocks on the policy, when they say relief should be limited only to the states and individuals who sued. Why does this procedural wrinkle matter? If the judges agree the government could start enforcing Trump's birthright restrictions everywhere except in the 22 states and plaintiffs' cases already blocked, that would split America into 2 different citizenship rules depending on where you live. Cornell law expert Jacob Hamburger says the administration hopes to win on this procedural question first.
We started this basically in 1868 with the 14th Amendment, which tells us that all persons who are born in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens at birth. That provision of the 14th Amendment gets interpreted by the Supreme Court in a case called Wellington Ark in 1898 to mean that essentially the amendment means what it says: all persons who are born in the United States are citizens, with some very narrow exceptions. And the only one that really applies for the most part today is an exception for the children of ambassadors.
In plain English, the Constitution says the birthright citizenship is nearly absolute. So Trump's order faces an uphill battle on the merits. But narrow the scope of the injunctions and you get immediate enforcement in 2/3 of the country.
So really the way we get here is that when Donald Trump is sworn in as president just a couple months ago in 2025, he comes out immediately with an executive order that purports at least to apply a new definition of birthright citizenship, denying that citizenship to children, to put it simply, whose parents are not, at least one parent is not a U.S. citizen or a lawful permanent resident.
Democratic attorney generals from 22 states, plus individual immigrants and civil rights groups sued. They argued Trump's directive flouts the 14th Amendment, ratified in 1868 to guarantee citizenship to everyone born on U.S. soil. And this is where the administration's emergency appeal gets tactical. But not everyone agrees it's appropriate. University of Minnesota's Ilan Werman argues the court has never clarified if temporary visitors or undocumented parents fall under the 14th Amendment's jurisdiction requirement.
The government's best argument is to point out that the Supreme Court has never decided these particular questions. The executive order deals with unlawfully present people, and it deals with temporary sojourners. In this famous case called Wong Kim Ark that everybody cites in the 1890s, the Supreme Court held that a child born of domiciled permanent resident Chinese residents of the United States, they were lawfully present, they were domiciled in the United States, so they had an intent to stay, were citizens. Their children were citizens. The Supreme Court has never resolved the question whether somebody here on a tourist visa or a temporary sojourner is in the same way subject to the jurisdiction and their children are citizens. It has never decided if you're not lawfully present, whether you are subject to the jurisdiction in the relevant sense. So that's the first strong ground that the government is on, is that everybody thinks this is settled and decided, but it's in fact not. The Trump administration has an argument here, but I think it's going to be an uphill battle for them probably with the justices.
If you really think about it, I think that this is probably less likely to be a case where the Supreme Court is going to take this step, just because if that's true, if there is a solid majority against the Trump administration's fundamental position here, what the justices would be voting for if they partially stay these injunctions would be voting to have one rule of birthright citizenship for some people, maybe one rule of birthright citizenship that operates in one state, but not another, one that operates for some people, but not others.
The justices will hear the case. Will they tackle the constitutionality of birthright citizenship or narrow the power of lower judges? Either way, their decision could reshape citizenship across America. Oscar winner Halle Berry got a bit of a surprise at this year's Cannes Festival when the organizers rolled out new dress code rules at the last minute. The updated guidelines ban nudity and say no to big, voluminous gowns, especially those with huge trains. Take a look.
Halle Berry wore a black and white striped dress on the red carpet at the Cannes opening ceremony on Tuesday, though it was not her first choice, she told reporters earlier in the day. The Oscar-winning actor and festival jury member was caught off guard by the film festival's updated dress code.
But I had an amazing dress by Gupta to wear tonight, and I cannot wear because the train is too big. So of course, I'm going to follow the rules. So I had to make a pivot.
The new rules prohibit nudity as well as voluminous outfits, which include long trains that may block the way for other guests and complicate theater seating. In addition, the code now explicitly allows for elegant shoes without a heel on the red carpet. BBC film reporter Tom Brooke called the rules something for people to talk about.
Well, that seems to happen, every time with Cannes. I remember a few years ago there was a ban on selfies. There was also a ban on women wearing flat heels at Cannes, and there was an uproar about that. I think it was called Heelgate or whatever. And now we hear that no nudity will be allowed on the red carpet. In my mind, it's not terrifically important.
In recent years, guests and celebrities on the red carpet have been pushing the limits of the festival's dress code. Kanye West and his wife Bianca Censori caused a stir at the Grammy Awards red carpet earlier this year when Censori dropped an oversized coat to reveal a sheer dress with nothing underneath. Organizers said they could deny red carpet access to those who do not respect the rules.
Screen acting legend Robert De Niro was honored with a Lifetime Achievement Award as the 78th Cannes Film Festival opened with a gala ceremony. De Niro, 81, was presented with a Palme d'Or by his Killers of the Flower Moon co-star Leonardo DiCaprio. The duo first worked together in 1993 when DiCaprio starred in This Boy's Life, based on the memoirs of writer Tobias Wolff. DiCaprio plays a boy affected by his mother's relationship with his cruel stepfather, played by De Niro. In 2023 Western thriller Killers of the Flower Moon, the pair were directed by Martin Scorsese, and De Niro received a Best Supporting Actor Oscar nomination the following year for his role as crime boss William Hale. De Niro has won 2 Academy Awards for The Godfather Part 2 in 1975 and then in 1981 for playing boxer Jake LaMotta in Raging Bull. The 78th Cannes Film Festival runs for 11 days until Saturday, May 24. And with that, we end tonight's broadcast. For everyone here on NET25, I'm Alma Angeles. Thank you all for joining us. Good night.
This program is supported by Hyla Philippines. With Hyla, breathing isn't